and I'm the manager of the Operational Excellence and Lean Service line here at WMEP. Many of you are familiar with the WMEP, but I will provide a brief overview as a refresher before turning the program over to Josh Schnoor from Virtual QE. The WMEP is a management consulting firm that focuses on helping manufacturing companies become more profitable and valuable. We offer an integrated suite of services that help our customers grow, reduce costs, increase capacity, achieve certification and compliance, improve quality, and maximize their human capital investment. We help them solve challenges to take their business to the next level. We are a mission-based, private, nonprofit company. Because we're mission-based, we focus on our customers' top and bottom lines, not ours. Our real currency is how well our customers do, and this impact is measured. Every engagement concludes with a customer survey to measure the impact of our performance. The survey data is our report card to our funding partners and determines our funding fate. This keeps us laser beam focused on delivering the best possible results for our clients. We feel Virtual QE provides a great supplement to what we offer in helping companies capture and communicate work instructions. So it's with my pleasure to introduce Josh Schnoor, Manager of Development for Virtual QE, who will explain how video work instructions can dramatically improve your hiring and training speeds as well as retention.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you to the entire WMEP organization. By the way, that's Jerry on the screen. If you have any questions following this presentation, he is your main point of contact. I'll be facilitating our conversation, but feel free to reach out to Jerry if you have questions about content or next steps. Very excited today to be able to facilitate our conversation for the next 30 minutes about the unprecedented #1 concern in our industry today. You guessed it, skilled labor, specifically skilled labor availability. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. Once again, I just want to thank the WMEP for facilitating this meeting of wise minds coming together, sharpening each other, and growing in our knowledge of our industry and our occupations and our careers. Second, there's a lot of people on today's webinar. So for purpose of communication, everyone's phones have been muted, but we definitely want to know your questions. So use the question and answer function of the software. It's either going to be at the very top of your screen or the very bottom of your screen. You can even insert your question anonymously if that's important to you. Without further ado, let's get started. So to prelude our conversation today, we at Virtual QE call these 4 categories on the screen the Fateful 4. The reason why we call these the Fateful 4 is because we believe that the fate of your company rests in how well you manage these 4 categories. Take a second to read some of the questions. Undoubtedly, there's going to be at least one question on there that either you can't answer or you don't feel exactly comfortable about what your answer is. But don't worry, because if you stay to the end of this webinar, I promise you that you'll know something that's going to make you a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more confident about answering each one of those questions. So let's get into it. How to secure all the skilled labor you need. Can you imagine? First of all, what is skilled labor, right? If you're an owner of a restaurant and you're looking for a chef, someone who's a lifeguard is no help to you. That's not skilled labor to you. Now that's skilled labor to somebody looking for a lifeguard, but specifically for those for those of us on this call, when we say skilled labor, we're talking about people who have experience and knowledge in the trade that we work in, that we possess, people who know how to weld, people who know how to operate heavy machinery, people who have industry experience. And we're going to break down on how you secure all of that skilled labor into 3 secrets. Secret number 1, how to reduce the learning curve of every task. What if you could reduce the amount of experience needed to complete the specialized tasks on your manufacturing floor? Secret number 2, how to reduce training costs and increase employee retention at the same time. What if you could alleviate the perpetual bleeding of training and turnover? Even more importantly, what if you could reduce the amount of turnover in the first place? We're going to talk about that. Secret number 3, how to secure and preserve vital tribal knowledge? What if you had a library of all the tribal knowledge that your production floor ever had? Cool thought, right? We're going to talk about that. So let's get into it. Secret number one, how to reduce the learning curve for every task. It's no secret to anyone on this call. I don't think anyone on this call would argue with me that video is a more effective and efficient medium to transfer information from one person to the next. That pretty much goes without argument. We've all had some kind of experience with that one way or the other. The question is, though, why is it so much better? The other question is, how much better is it actually? Well, in order to answer those questions, we talk about ergonomics. Everyone's familiar with ergonomics, the study of people's efficiency in their working environments. If you're a baseball player, it's the end of your baseball bat. If you're a professional, you probably have an ergonomic keyboard. What's important to note about ergonomics is that scientists have been able to, after studying the brain, they've been able to call out definitions and define things that actually cause video ergonomic for your brain. Terms like cognitive load and behavior modeling and chunking. These are all definitions that scientists have given to allowing us to be able to hack the limitations of our brain. And with those tips and tricks, this is the slide that shows you just how much better and effective video is than text when it comes to learning something. Look at these stats. You've heard it said that a picture's worth 1,000 words. And that includes you looking at the picture as long as you want. Only 60 seconds of video is worth 1.8 million written words. Take a look at the stat that says that visual processing is 60,000 times faster than reading it on text. What if you could apply that stat to your manufacturing floor? I know. I mean, you still have the limitations of humans, right? Like they have 10 fingers, they have 2 hands, right? 2 eyes. But what if there's a way that you could actually package the information that they're receiving, right? As they're trying to reduce their learning curve, as you're paying for them to be able to reduce their, to be able to learn on the job. What if you could package it in such a way that they could actually receive it in the most ergonomic way that their brain wants to receive it? By the way, through studying synaptic transmission, that's the name of the science of how the information travels from lobe to lobe in our brain and eventually amounts to solving a task or a problem. By studying these topics, we've included these tips and tricks in our instructional videos that we're going to show you in a little bit. Everybody undoubtedly recognizes this logo. It's because it's the #2 search engine in the world, second only to Google. The reason why you recognize this symbol is because the entire world uses it. And if the entire world uses video to reduce their learning curve, why not do the same in manufacturing? So to give you an idea of what it looks like, please pay attention to the screen. You should see a video. If you have your sound on, you'll also hear sound. The sound's not near as important as the video, but what you're watching now is raw footage, some things that you'll note. It's a very specific and specialized task. Maybe something similar to some of the people on this call, what your facility looks like. The raw footage is in first person. That's critical for the tips and tricks of synaptic transmission that we've learned. Here in a second, you're going to see what a snapshot of what the editing looks like. Something that you'll notice is that there's multiple steps, multiple decisions, multiple pieces of software, multiple screens that can be used and ultimately are used to spit out the final product. By the way, the final product, the goal of the final product is to allow someone who's never done it before to be able to do it the first time without making a mistake. Okay, now once the editing is done, you'll see the raw footage. There's some things I want you to note about the raw footage. One is that it's going to draw attention to the things that are most important about the task. The raw footage includes details that are important and details that aren't so important. But when somebody's learning, when somebody's trying to reduce the learning curve for that task, they really don't, I mean, you've been in a situation where you've learned something the first time. You really don't want to be bombarded by the things that aren't necessarily important for learning how to do what you're doing right then and there. In editing, we can do that. You'll also notice some inclusions of the methodology known as training within industry. You may notice TWI. We break the task down into critical steps and key points within those points. You'll also notice some safety inputs. An example of tribal knowledge is the fact that the person needed to keep that level of that tank at a certain height in order for them to get consistent weights. That's something that probably wouldn't be written down in typical work instructions, but in a video we can capture that. And all that to get you here to explain what we mean when we say bridging the skills gap. And when we talk about the skills gap, is really two main levels, a macro level and a micro level, I call it. On a macro level, the skills gap is the pure volume of people that are leaving the manufacturing industry due to retirement or interest in another industry, whatever you want to call it, versus the volume of people that are entering the industry to take their places. There's a gap there. There's many more people, many more baby boomers that are leaving than the millennials that are applying for their jobs to replace them. On a micro level, we're talking about the amount of skills and experience that's needed to occupy the vacant positions on manufacturing floors versus the amount of experience and knowledge that's currently possessed by the available talent pool. Hence, there's a skills gap. Now, traditional methods to bridge this gap have been things like technical college, apprenticeships, trade schools. These are all very effective ways to bridging that skills gap. However, today, what we would like to challenge you with is the thought that you could bridge the skills gap from the other side, because we're saying, how about instead of trying to increase the overall knowledge and experience of the existing talent pool and resources that are available to us, how about we reduce the amount of experience and knowledge that's needed of the tasks that they're actually performing? And the way that you do that is by putting them on video, specifically the important quality and safety inputs that they need to know to do the job right the first time. And when you do so, you're going to notice that you're going to get more of your best people. And video work instructions is not going to give you more of your best people. It's actually your best people that are going to help you make the video work instructions that you'll use. But what it will do is it will give you more of those best people, because it won't make your best people better, but what it will do is give you more of those best people, because now your new technicians, your new operators, your mediocre operators can now be trained and utilize the video from the best practices of your best people. I love this quote by one of our customers. Peter parallels video work instructions to having a personal trainer in the gym. Now, I've been to the gym many years. It's been a habit of mine, but without a personal trainer, because I was doing just fine without a personal trainer. It wasn't until I actually tried a personal trainer did I realize that the tips and tricks that he gave me, small things pertaining to my posture, pertaining to my reps, pertaining to the weight count, that really made a great big difference in the results that I was looking for. And the same is true for many of the people on the call today. You're getting by just fine, right? You have your text instructions, you have your picture instructions, maybe you don't, but you're getting by just fine. And you'll be just fine. You just won't experience the accelerated results in the categories of training, labor availability, quality, and tribal knowledge. Another thing I want to note about Peter is he has a deaf employee, one of his best guys. And because of his sensory limitation, Peter's also limited as to where he can utilize him on the production floor. But what he found out was the more tasks that he put on video, that his employee was able to benefit from the non-audio, non-verbal clues, and he's able to use him in places on the plant floor where he wasn't before. Now, somebody has a question right now. Don't be afraid to write it in the question and answer. We're going to get to it at the end. Secret number 2. How to reduce training costs and increase employee retention at the same time. To introduce this secret, I want to show you another video. As the video loads, I'm going to explain to you what you're watching. So what you're getting ready to watch now is a brand new hire performing a brand new task, watching a brand new video. He's never done this before. Okay? The blue gloves in the top right-hand corner is his boss, the person who has the tribal knowledge. They put on our hardware. We took the footage. we edited it and created this video work instruction that he's watching and using to perform this task for the first time. Some important things to note: the video is sped up for the purposes of this webinar. Another thing to note is it may look glitchy on your end. It's perfectly fluid on my end, but I have heard that when we do webinars, sometimes, in some cases, it comes across glitchy, and I apologize for that if that's the case. Another important thing for you to notice is that it's a highly skilled task. Another thing is that it's not a Hollywood film. We do not create Steven Spielberg movies. You know, practical versus enjoyable, first person versus third person. We create intuitive, practical footage for a trainee to be able to do a task correctly the first time, to be able to easily repeat the best practices that are caught on film. Another thing to note is that when we asked the manager how long it usually takes somebody to learn how to do this, he said 3 days is the fastest anybody's ever been able to do that task without making a mistake. And this person here was able to do it on his first try using only the video. Now, he froze, he rewound. It wasn't at production speed. That's a different metric, but quality is what we're looking for. You also notice subtitles. It's an easy way to cross language barriers. You'll notice sound. We use music and audio cues and clues when there's a critical step change or there's a tool change. This is all helpful by use of the tips and tricks that we study with synaptic transmission. Finally, what you'll note is that the person in the video is a millennial. And that's fitting because the target audience for manufacturing hiring managers in the near future is millennials. Here are the numbers. On the top of the screen represents manufacturing, in the top of the screen represents North America jobs of all industries. The stats on the bottom half of the screen represent North America specifically for manufacturing. What's important to note about that is that 3 million people walked away from their job last year, and 77% of those 3 million people, including the ones who retired now, said that their employers could have retained them. And that's actually fitting also because the large demographic of those stats were millennials, who are far different in character and moral than their baby boomer counterparts that they're replacing. You see millennials are used to having easy access to all the information. They're used to having ability to rotate on a job and not stay stuck to the same job for a long period of time. Millennials, it's important for millennials to have a clear path to growth, and they want to have ownership and engagement in their job, and they really don't want to be taught these things in a formal setting. They want to have a way to receive those things in an informal setting, as described by Dr. Ridner, the CEO of Study.com. He suggests that if you're serious about attracting and retaining millennials, changing up your formal training process is something you should seriously consider. When you drill down into those details of those 77% that said that they could have been retained by their employer, a lot of those reasons would be addressed by if those companies were to utilize video work instructions that addresses these important millennial topics. Now, whatever your question is, I see some people have already used the question and answer function. That's great. We'll get to them at the end. Secret number 3, how to secure and preserve vital tribal knowledge. Now, let's talk about your expert technicians for a second, and tribal knowledge and what that means. Like I said before, all tribal knowledge is good, but there's some tribal knowledge that's vital. I mean, it's imperative for the work that you do, the season that you're in, the contract that you're pursuing, that you have a way to preserve this information that the veterans on your floor know. The experts on your production floor, they're the heartbeat of your production. They're the best resources for getting things done right. And in fact, I bet you didn't know that you can get even more out of them. You see, the way that we create these video work instructions, we heavily utilize your expert technicians so that the practices that you're training other people on include the tribal knowledge that they know, the stuff that can't be written down on anybody's text or picture work instructions. You see, there actually is a way that employers can go to bed at night and not have to worry, not have that weight, that gloom lingering over them of what would happen if they were to lose their best people. Okay, because these experts, they're a double-edged sword. They're beautiful to have. Oh my goodness, but the significant effects when you lose them is devastating. So what if you could go to bed at night and not have to worry about that? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. You can actually duplicate your best people and have a library of all the best things that they know. Here's a quote from one of our customers, and I won't go into the story about what he's talking about from this quote, but it's interesting because I know the story that goes behind the lesson that he had to learn. You see, Michael was in a situation where he didn't want to pay the price for something right then, but it ended up costing him much more in the long term of the contract. The price for video work instructions now is pennies compared to the cost that you would incur the day that you need that information. Once again, if you have any questions, please put them in the question and answer function. Now, we've gone through secrets 1, secrets 2, secrets 3 pretty quickly, but I'm pretty sure that you have a good understanding of how video can reduce the learning curve. You've seen how, and I'm sure you can see the low-hanging fruit about how it can train new hires effectively. By the way, the big picture that we're trying to solve is what could your organization accomplish if labor was not a limiting factor? The low-hanging fruit is training people fast. Yes, we can do that. You can do that. You'll get instantaneous results if you try it. Now, the big questions, like how to improve your quality score, how to improve your on-time delivery. A lot of these big ticket questions, these big goals that companies have, that solutions really start by having available bodies to put onto their production floor. That's the big problem that we're trying to solve for manufacturers. Now, with secret 1, 2, and 3, I have confidence that you could take everything we learned and on your own go out and put into action and get results that you previously thought weren't possible. And if that was your only option, it would be a good one. But what if there were another option? What if you had a partner? What if the WMEP and Virtue QE played an active role in your results, took a responsibility in your success, and had an obligation to your outcome with these videos? How would that make things different? If we shared shortcuts, support systems, and additional insights that go even deeper, and you get the results that you want, desire, and quite frankly deserve. If we had an option for that, if we had an option like that for you, would you be interested? Then if it's okay, I would like to present to you with that option. Video work instructions, we charge by the video, conversion and new. A conversion is if you have existing text and picture work instructions that we're converting to video. The latter is obviously if you do not have existing text and picture work instructions. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, so what's the process? You saw a little bit in the first video, but let me explain it in a little bit more detail. So we use safety glasses replacements that go on your best operator, the person with the tribal knowledge. He or she puts on the hardware, performs the task. The hardware collects the information, 1080p video, audio as well. There's best practices to go with how to capture the film. We help you with all that. Finally, we take that footage, we take it back to the lab. We edit it. We cut, we crop, we zoom. We include TWI methodology. We put in the quality inputs, the safety inputs, and the ergonomic inputs that make it the intuitive tool that it is for someone who's never done it before to do it correctly the first time. Finally, after we're done with the video, the final product is delivered to the customer in the form of an MP4 file. Easily convertible, easily integratable to any technology that he or she chooses. Most people use a tablet, some people use phones, laptops, even an ERP system will work. What about the hardware? Good question. So this is what we send. We're able to use footage, and we encourage footage from multiple angles. However, the first person view that we get from the camera glasses is of most importance because when someone's learning how to do the task, Seeing it in first person alleviates the need to reorient into the first person when they're watching a video that's in third person. We also send you some accessories. The kit comes out to be about $500. I know what else you're thinking. What about changes, continuous improvement, or small changes to the process? I would hate for my video to be out of date as soon as I create it. Good question. We have a solution for that. For an additional percentage, we include what we call the maintenance package that includes unlimited revisions to that video for up to a year. Once that year's up, you have the option on whether or not you want to renew that maintenance or not. Does the video speak Spanish? Absolutely. Spanish, Polish, Creole, any language you want. One of the biggest benefits of video is that even without the audio or the subtitles, the video itself crosses all language barriers. But in the event that you need translation, we can put the audio in one language and we can put the subtitles in another language. And then of course, there's all the other questions, right? The things that you're thinking that we won't exactly get to on the content of this webinar. Well, we also offer process and project support. With this comes along all the knowledge and experience from doing videos for multiple other companies, all within manufacturing, different industries within manufacturing, by the way. And we can bring some tips and tricks and best practices to where you could start and how to get the best result from your project. Now, we have what we call a starter pack, right? So for four videos, you do the math, it comes out to be about $6,400, and that includes everything that we described today with 4 videos. Now, 4 videos is, we call it the starter pack because about 4 videos is about what you need to really get a good taste of the effects of this. All you need is 1 video to see the demonstration of how fast someone can train off of it. But it takes a few more videos to actually try to solve a problem on your manufacturing floor. Now, if all video did was alleviate your labor availability limitations, would it be worth it? If all video did was make your training 10 times faster, would it be worth it? Not to mention make your training better, by the way. If all video did was secure vital tribal knowledge for future reference, would it be worth it then? If all video did was reduce your turnover by any amount, would it be worth it then? Now, for those of you that are still on the webinar, congratulations, because I told you that I had something for you. Thanks to the WMEP and our partnership with them, they have made it a much easier way for you to get started. So all that value that we talked about today, okay, for a limited time, those that are on this webinar have the ability to get the package for $3,400. And what it includes is 4 videos, which is about 45 minutes of final edited footage. It includes the hardware, it includes the maintenance, which is the unlimited revisions for all the videos, and it includes all the support that we talked about today. Once again, imagine how much business you're leaving on the table from effects of labor limitations that you could actually alleviate. This is a big problem for everybody, and video work instructions is an effective way to bridge that skills gap and turn over that new rock, that new leaf that your company is looking for to give you propelled results to the goals that you're looking for. So with that being said, Jerry, I'll turn it over to you to close us out.
Okay, good. Thanks, Josh. Pretty informative presentation. We really enjoyed it. So to close the loop on this Manufacturing Matters promotion, Virtual QE and the WMEP have put together a generous promotion offer that Josh just showed you, that's up on your screen right now. And this is available through this week, Friday the 22nd. So as Josh mentioned, it includes the details of the instructions, the hardware, the maintenance and support, as well as 3 hours of assistance from WMEP to kind of be there to hold your hand perhaps a little bit to help you get started, and also throw in a few of the tricks of the trade, along with what Josh had mentioned. So hopefully get you off and running successfully. So to take advantage of this offer, contact me, Jerry Filchin. You'll receive a follow-up email to this webinar with my contact information. Thanks and have a great day.
Hey,
Josh, do we have any questions that we have to address?
Yes, actually we do. We have a couple questions here. The first one is the webinar being taped and available to view at a later time? Yes, this webinar will be recorded and it will be available for the same time frame as the offer is available, so up until 3/22, which is this Friday. Once again, Jerry is going to be your point of contact on where to get that link to see this video. This next question is, how easy and or difficult is making changes to the video work instructions, adding, deleting work instructions as we make continuous improvements to the process? That's a good question. I mentioned it briefly before. We have a maintenance package. The way that would actually work out would be, as you make those continuous improvements on your process, you would film the parts of the process that have changed. Once you send us that footage, it is easy for us to edit the portion that has changed, therefore effectively making your work instruction up to date. And Jared, do you have any questions on your end?
One thing I was just curious, and maybe the rest of the group is as well, is there an estimate, maybe as a percentage, that you've experienced over time of what percentage of the reduction in training time? Could we say 50%, 75%, 25%? I know in your example on the video, you mentioned that this one operation took 3 days and he pretty much got it together in the first try. I mean, that's quite a difference. Is that typical?
Yeah, so we took a sample study from 10 different demonstrations similar to the one that we showed you on the webinar today. And after seeing the average difference in time from, we asked everybody the same question: how fast was somebody able to do this task, somebody able to learn this task without needing additional help and doing it correctly? How fast did that happen? When we asked that question across those 10 different studies, we came up with the average time that we say is 10 times faster. However you're currently training individuals right now to learn something, if you were to use our video work instructions, 10 times faster is how much faster that you should be able to answer that question.
A lot of savings in training time there, isn't there?
Absolutely. That's usually the first low-hanging fruit that someone will see, is how fast they can get their expert who they had to take off of their revenue producing activities to train someone. That's usually the first low-hanging fruit on their return on investment, is how fast they can get that expert off that training situation and back on his or her revenue producing activities. And in some cases, we're cutting off a week or weeks, and it's very significant.
Thanks, Josh.
So that's all the questions that we have. With this, we will officially wrap up. Thank you very much for everyone who joined us today. I hope that you gleaned and got something out of the content. If you liked anything that you saw in the content, please feel free to visit our blog on our website. There's a lot of content there that goes into great detail about some of the things that I just skimmed over today in the presentation. Thank you again to the WMEP. I'll leave the screen on here for the duration of the webinar until everyone logs off. Feel free to reach out to Jerry with your questions and your next steps. Have a great day.